Today I want to talk to you about my first ever art fair. I'm talking a little tent on the side of the street with a bunch of other vendors. So I had my first ever art fair and I was so excited. I've been preparing for months. I'm basically going to tell you what I needed to prepare for the art show, how the actual art show went, and what I learned from that art show. So I applied for this art show back in March. You had to have a website with all your art on it. So I applied for the art show by sending in my website and all of my art and keeping my fingers crossed. Luckily, obviously, I got accepted into the art show pretty quickly and I was so excited, but then it hit me, I don't have any of the supplies that I need. I don't have a tent, I don't have a table, I don't have anything. So I was starting from zero. And that's what I wanted to share with you is everything I had to get in order to have this art show. So first things first, I needed a tent. I bought my tent on Amazon. It is a 10 by 10 white tent. I didn't have to have white for the show, but some shows in the future do require me to have a white tent. So I do recommend getting a 10 by 10 white tent. I will have the link below to the tent that I bought. I ended up actually needing to buy solid walls for my tent because the tent I originally got came with mesh walls, but I wanted to get solid walls just in case it rained, and luckily I did because it did end up raining during my first show and I wanted to make sure all my art was going to stay dry. So the other thing that I needed to have for this booth is I needed to have a table. So I ended up buying a table from Walmart, just one of those pop-up tables. With that, you need a tablecloth, and I will be linking just everything in the description below. I also ended up getting a couple of racks to hang my paintings from, and you wouldn't believe it, guys, racks are so expensive to hang your art on. I don't know why, but I ended up finding these pretty cheap racks from a friend, and these were great. I ended up hanging them to my tent with zip ties. So I hung these racks up, and I also got S-hooks to hang my paintings on the racks with, and S-hooks are really cheap. That was like one of the only things that was cheap, and thank goodness, really grateful for that. So that was basically the bare bones of my physical tent. You also want to make sure that you have varying price points for your different art that you're bringing. So I had large paintings, medium paintings, and small paintings. And on top of having the different sized paintings, if someone wanted to buy an original, I also had prints of my work and stickers of my work. So there was a price point for every single person that would have walked through. And I was grateful I had that because on the actual day, I did end up selling a lot of stickers, a couple of prints, and a couple of my small paintings. So that was really exciting, and I highly recommend doing that. And not only will you have different sizes of paintings, make sure you have one large-ish piece because that'll be your showstopper piece. That's the piece that's going to get people excited when they're coming to your booth. It's going to draw them in, right? So I had my big embodying the masculine and feminine painting, and that's my showstopper, and that would, you know, coax people in from walking by. Though it was raining that day, so not many people were walking by. One thing I also wanted to mention is to have a reader for credit cards because a lot of people don't have cash anymore. You can get an app on your phone that is from Square. It's called like Square POS. I'll link it below if I can figure it out. But it's literally just an app that you can connect with your phone, and you can just tap or enter in credit cards manually on that app. And it is so nice. You don't have to invest like in a card reader or anything. Just use the app. It's free, and they just take a small percentage. And that was really, really nice to have, especially when people are making larger purchases or they didn't have enough cash. And that being said, because it was raining, there wasn't much foot traffic, okay? So luckily, and I recommend you do this too, invite as many of your friends and family to come with you as you possibly can. Not with you, but come visit you. Because if I hadn't invited my friends and family to come visit me, I would have been so lonely that day, just standing in my tent alone. But because I invited all my friends, there's plenty of people coming to visit me and keeping my spirits high. Thank goodness, because otherwise I would have been so sad. And it's gonna be friends and family at first who support you and support your artwork. And that's exactly what happened. People have been watching my journey as an artist from day one, and they're so excited to support me by buying some of my art. So I highly recommend that. I actually had little flyers printed out inviting people to my show, and I handed them out for the past couple weeks. I'll go ahead and insert that invitation here so you can see what that looked like. But the invitation really helped draw people in. Otherwise, I would have had nobody coming to my show. When the day of the fair actually came, I was really, really excited. I got everything set up, and as I've been mentioning, it rained, okay? And that was like honestly worst case scenario for me. I was really bummed that it rained. It's just been really rainy here in Colorado lately, and I was bummed, but I was prepared, and I highly suggest you're prepared as well. So like I had said, I had the solid walls that protected from the rain. I had the tent, which was very solid too. And I also brought all of my prints and things in a solid plastic Tupperware, like those big storage bins. I'll go ahead and show you some video of those as well, but those saved me because they were tucked under my table, and I kid you not, there was rivers flowing through my tent because it was raining so much. And if I hadn't had my things in those plastic bins, everything would have gotten wet, and I would have been a very sad woman. Make sure you have your things in waterproof containers. I also had these sandbags filled with rocks that were holding my tent down in case it got too windy. Luckily it didn't, but I'm glad I had that just in case. I highly suggest weatherproofing your tent as much as possible, because I had every single one of my paintings and prints and stickers in that booth, and if it had gotten wet or blown away, I would have been devastated. So luckily that didn't happen. Everything stayed dry. I was so grateful. Honestly, even though it rained, I still made it work, still made the best of everything. And another thing too is the day of, make sure that you bring enough water and snacks and caffeine to get you through the day. This was like a 6 or 7 hour fair, so I definitely made sure I brought enough water. I brought an actual jug of water to keep with me, and I would just refill my water bottle every time that thing got empty. And then I also brought a energy drink, and I also brought coffee in the morning just to make sure I was fully caffeinated and ready to go for the entire day. And another thing too is, even though there wasn't a lot of foot traffic happening that day, I still made a point to go and talk to the other vendors that I saw in the festival, because it was so nice to connect with other artists, right? Like I think a lot of the artists there were pretty shy and like weren't coming over to say hi. And I just said, fuck it. And I crossed the street and left my booth for just a minute or two. You know, it's fine. No one really around. And I talked to the other artists and I asked them about their work and how long they've been doing it. And it was so good to meet other artists. And now they are friends of mine on Instagram. And it's so nice to know other artists that are kind of in the same stage as you, right? And that are local. And I always love having more art friends because they understand what it's like to be an artist with a small business. So all in all, I am really grateful that I did this art fair. I will say it was a bigger investment than I had imagined. Just getting all the things that you need to have a full-on booth at an art fair, it's a huge investment. It cost me a good chunk of money, and I did not profit from this first event because it was such a big initial investment of buying the tent, the table, the prints, the stickers, all of those things. So now I have plenty of inventory and I have the foundation for my next art booth, which is happening in a few months. But it's a big investment. So definitely make sure that you're feeling ready and excited before you make this huge investment, because yeah, like you just want to make sure that it is for you, right? And I knew that I wanted to, I've always dreamt of having my own booth at an art fair. Like I remember being a little girl and being so excited to see other people's art at art festivals, and so I was so excited to finally have my own. It was definitely a dream come true. But just a warning, it's a big investment, and you know, if you don't have good weather, not a lot of people are going to come to the festival. And another thing about festivals is a lot of times there is an initial like booth deposit fee. So this initial deposit was $35 to have a booth space, but some booth spaces can be, I'm not even kidding you, hundreds of dollars. Like I was looking into one that's $500 entry fee. Dang! So like there's levels, right? So figure out which level of an art booth or art fair that you can attend. There's even art fairs where you don't need a tent. They're indoor holiday festivals and whatnot where you just have a table and your art. So there are levels. Just make sure you understand what kind of investment you're making when you join or apply for a show. And that is it. That is everything I've learned from having my first art fair. I was super grateful and excited to do this and have this experience. And I do recommend it to any artist that wants to do it. Why not try it out? My friends and family were so psyched to see my artwork, and they kept telling me how proud of me they were, and I'm proud of me too, because it did take a lot of work, and it takes a lot to put yourself out there publicly like that. So if you have any other questions about having an art fair or having your own art booth, please leave them in the comments below. I will be sure to answer them for you. If you haven't already, please check out my website. It's linked down below, and I also have an Instagram. I do have plenty of original paintings left over and prints, and that's it for today. I can't wait to talk to you all in the next one. Bye guys.